Sometimes we're insecure, we're fragile. Sometimes we laugh at each other to make ourselves feel better. Sometimes.
Hello, and welcome to Brunch with the Boys. My name is Yola Wakili, and I'm your host today. Today's topic is that straight boy that does queer things to you. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about our experiences as queer, gay men, same-gender loving, identified men, with heterosexual identified men, and those ways in which they do things that are homoerotic, flirtatious, sometimes overtly sexual, and all the odd and strange situations that puts us in and how we navigate and deal with that. So, of course, this is going to be a little bit of a kiki because everybody here has some interesting stories. I just want to make sure I'm very clear that no heterosexual men were harmed in the research for this taping. Okay, but to start us out today, we have, of course, a distinguished panel of brilliant men. First off, we have Eddie Nopu with us today. Say hi, Eddie.
Hey.
Just in case you all didn't know, Eddie is, of course, transnational socialite, editor for the Feminist Squire, brilliant writer, fashionista, and amazing person, and we're always thrilled to have him all here to get us together and tell us about ourselves. Thank you, Eddie, for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And next, of course, we have the internationally acclaimed stunt queen, Kenyan Pharaoh. Say hello, Kenyan.
In all area codes.
In all area codes. All area codes. Stunting in all area codes. No, Kenyan is a writer and an activist, the former executive director of Queers for Economic Justice, and just an all-around amazing person, and I'm always thrilled to have him on the show. He's awesome. Thanks, Kenyan, for being here today.
Glad to be here.
And next we have somebody new. We got some new meat, some new blood in the room, some new blood. So everybody, please welcome Jamal Lewis. Say Jamal. Say hi, Jamal.
Hey.
Jamal is joining us today, and he is a native of Atlanta and a graduating senior at Morehouse College. He's studying music, work. He's a Southern queer activist, organizer, writer, storyteller, singer, creative, and novice drag queen. So I have to tell you a little bit about how I actually came to know a little bit about Jamal. I haven't been in Atlanta for a long time, but I still have people who call me and tell me things. And people were calling me and telling me, girl, this is girl at Morehouse, and she's turning it, honey. She is turning it. And I was so shocked, because I was like, a queen at Morehouse turning it? That's so much. I was like, who is this person? I have to know her. I have to know who this is. And through the grapevine, me and Jamal eventually got connected on Facebook, and I was really excited about having the opportunity to invite him to be a part of this conversation today, which he eagerly said yes to, which I was good, because sometimes girls don't use you and you don't find out until you call them. But he was actually really excited about it. So thank you, Jamal, so much for being here. Welcome to the Brunch with the Boys family. We're thrilled to have you on, and can't wait to see what reads you will offer all of us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, of course, if you're out there and you're watching the video, we want you to participate in the conversation. If you tweet about the conversation, make sure you use our hashtag BWTB. Also, if you want to learn more about the work that we're doing with Brunch with the Boys, you can visit us at brunchwiththeboys.org. You can also follow us on Twitter at BrunchWTheBoys to learn more. We are on Twitter Sundays, Eastern Time, 1 to 2, tweeting with everybody about the different videos that are posted. So make sure you join us for the conversation. You can also engage us and ask us questions. And we hope to see you there. So that being said, all that set up, I have to make sure I let everybody know before the conversation begins that I do have the Shade Stone here with me, okay? I just want to let everybody know the Shade Stone is here. And Jamal, you may not know what the Shade Stone is, but this is a piece of amethyst, Jamal, and sometimes the girls get a little carried away, right? So I have to this amethyst is known for breaking up shade, it clears up negative shady vibrations. So at times, when the girls try it, I just go girl, bring it back up here, cleanse the aura.
Yes.
I was going to burn sage, but then the girls was like, okay, I set myself on fire one time, my white yaki, it was a mess. So no more sage, no more fire, we're just going to do an amethyst. So this is the Shade Stone, let everybody know this is in play. So if y'all see me waving this, you know what's happening.
Yes, I live.
So I also want to begin just kind of as a disclaimer, as we are sharing these stories about our experiences with, Black heterosexual or heterosexual identified men in general, we want to be very clear that we're not trying to enforce kind of rigid gender binaries in terms of as it relates to how heterosexual men may express their same-sex or male desire. We understand that sexuality and gender is very complicated, and that people's desires exist on a spectrum. However, we do want to share our experiences as queer and gay men and the challenging places we are put in when we have to navigate these suppressed or kind of like passive desires that come off from heterosexual identified men. So I just want to make sure I get the disclaimer, because the girls are ready to write a blog and come for you, and then I just don't have time for that right now in my life. Right now, there's enough going on. Okay, so I just want to get the disclaimer, because there will probably be lots of straight men who will see themselves in this and be really angry that they wanted to touch your booty or something like that, and it might come to, I know what the hell's going on. Okay, all right. So that being said, let's begin our conversation. And Kenyan, I think you volunteered to share your story first.
Yes. So, I had a few actually, and I was trying to narrow it down. And that's no shade. It just or to even brag. It's just whatever. I've had a range of experiences with kind of straight dudes who tried to kind of work through whatever their shit going on was kind of through me. But the one story is that I used to work for this organization in Spanish Harlem, New York City, that it was one of the best jobs of my life. It actually really changed my life in a lot of ways. But when I got hired, and it's a nonprofit, right? And a nonprofit that was mostly almost entirely black and brown folks, and very close knit. We still keep up with a lot of folks who work there to this very day. And this was probably about 12 years ago before I left. So when I started, there was one other gay man on staff, and he was he was my boss, right? And he was a white guy, and he was the only white guy on staff, in fact. And so of course, when I got hired, everybody was like, oh, so my boss, who shall remain nameless, they're like, oh, so what, you just hire random eye candy to come and work under you, whatever. So there was that kind of weirdness. I had to kind of prove that I knew what the hell I was doing, or could at least learn anyway. So that was kind of one piece. But then as folks got to know me over the time that I worked there, and it was a very hyper masculine kind of dudeish space, right? You got all these brothers, right? African American, Caribbean, Negroes, Cuban, Puerto Rican, very New York, very very much that, and and then all of a sudden this kind of weird things started to happen where people would all of these men would flirt with me all the time. They would come by my desk and whatever, stand real close. They would hug me really tight. Some of them would kiss me, and we were a very affectionate kind of organization. It was not unusual to see people kind of hug and touch each other in ways that, you usually think about kind of professional spaces. We were very much a family in a particular way. But there was this way in which, I was very much gendered as the, kind of the office fag, right? And so the straight boys would always try it with me, right? They would always do the most. And some of them, I even knew then, there were a couple of them that I was okay, this is actually really, you could be had if I really wanted to push it. You know what I mean? So, because there was a few of them that it just seemed like there was some other stuff kind of underneath all of that. But what was interesting about it was, what I liked about it on some level was that, whatever, several of them were really hot, so I didn't, really mind.
You didn't mind grabbing your cakes every once in a while. That's what it would.
Right, exactly, right. some of that I didn't. I was like, it was all right for that purpose. But also, it was in some ways cool to be in a space, with like these very like, dudeish, like butch machismo kind of guys who were really, really like affectionate with each other in different ways, but also very affectionate with me, right? And in some ways, that was very affirming and felt really good to be like I could be in that space. And then also, it was complicated because there was also ways in which like it was very gendering, right? It was very much like, kind of gendered, like in a way that is not really just entirely true for me. Like they very much, I was like gendered as like the office queen, right? Like, and because a big part of my job, I worked in the operations and HR department, so a lot of my job was when there were like office parties or birthdays, or we'd always do big celebrations for like Mother's Day and Father's Day, and like, so I was like the girl planning the parties and things like that, So it was like, it had like all of those kind of weird dynamics to it, but but at the end of the day, like, it was in some respects in this way really like affirming to be in a space where I could kind of, in ways I was really nervous about in that initially working in that kind of environment, because it was like so dudeish, right? Mm-hmm. But there was like kind of space for me to be there and just, whatever, not have to hide or be in the closet or kind of do a range of things to sort of protect myself in that way. But the other kind of end of it was that it also became this very like, kind of semi-stereotypical kind of like queen box that they wanted to sort of like place me in. I had to kind of like challenge them a couple times on that shit.
So interesting. So what I hear is that you were passed around the office by many of the straight identified men and touched on in many different ways, and you were the office queen. I don't know if y'all clocked that. I just want Jamal to clock that. But you're speaking in code, girl. We gotta watch our liability. But speaking that's what I'm hearing. Very interesting. Now, Kenyan, I have a question. Like, was there ever a particular instance in which maybe like you were like, it's like sometimes a hug lasted longer than you wanted it to, or like, maybe it was like an awkward. Were there any moments where you just really were like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this right now? In any of those moments?
Yeah, there were a few. There was one person in particular who I really liked, right? It's like, he was cool, but there was a way in which, and I'm trying not to give all the tea because the girls are going to see it.
Right, exactly.
And it'll be out. But there was one person there in particular who his sort of energy with me was it was extra, right? It was a little bit extra. And I can't remember one specific incident where like it was just like where something happened where it just felt a little bit like beyond the bounds in that way. But it was just certain times, like certain things he would say, right? Like one, like he used to always say, and this part I didn't really mind that much, but it was a little bit like, there's more going on there. But he would tell people, he'd be like, Kenyan, that's my bitch right there. That is my bitch, right? And like, and not, right. So it would be both this like double entendre, where it's like this like, that's like my, my homie in a way that I would talk about like one of the girls in the office, like that's my bitch, right? Like that's, my road dog. But also like, really, like, what I mean? So there was like a couple of times where like that kind of played out, and I would be like, okay.
Yeah. Very interesting stories, honey. Thank you. We appreciate you keeping, some of the tea locked away, honey. But we appreciate that.
Sometimes you got to write,
Honey.
You get in the water, and then you take that bag out, honey, and throw it in the trash.
Hello.
Okay. Well, wow. So that's really interesting. Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel like they echo a lot of those experiences in the situation. And Ken, what I forgot to ask everyone. So, what are you having for brunch this morning? What have you been sipping on, eating on, nibbling on for brunch today?
Okay, so I had brunch with a good friend of mine just before coming here, who was here from New York. Hi, Ryan. How you doing, boo? It's good to see you. And so I had this French toast, like a banana foster French toast at this place called Georgia Brown's here in D.C., which was first time I've eaten there, and it was really amazing. And so I'm capping it off with a screwdriver.
Okay. Ooh. Wow. Whack. Nice. Nice. Kenyan, I feel like every episode you've been on, you've had some liquor. I just want to.
It's true.
I'm here for that.
Like he's drinking, honey. He's turning it up, honey. I'm like, Kenya, what you drinking? Alizé. I'm like, Whew. Thank you for sharing your story, Kenyan. Very, very interesting and very curious, indeed. Next we have, I think Jamal, you want to share a little piece. You're gonna pop your brunch with the boys cherry. You're gonna share a little piece of those stories and see.
Yes, I've been waiting to turn my cherry out. Yeah, so my story is very similar, actually. It happened in the workplace, and this one in particular happened last summer while I was in California. Working at Johns Hopkins. I'm gonna give this person. I'm trying to think of like a name I could give them. Like a random. I'm gonna call them John Doe.
All right.
And this person, like at the start of like our session.
Hold on. What session, Jamal? Hold on. This is a PG-13.
Okay.
What's going on? We're trying to 13 here, bro.
Let me be more clear. So the job was kind of broken into like 2 sessions of 3 weeks. So it was 6 weeks altogether. And each session, it will be a different group of kids. So at the first session, at the staff like training and gathering, I just like noticed like this guy staring at me. And like I'm 6'1". And he was a little bit taller than me, and you know I was kind of turned on by him staring at me because after somebody stares at you for like longer than like 6 seconds or more, like they're into you. So I thought he was into my shape. So I reached over and I whispered in my good girl's ear. I was like, "Is he still looking at me?" Because of course I had to act like I wasn't acknowledging that he was looking at me in a way, and as soon as I asked her, she was like, "Yes, like he's still looking at you." So I didn't say anything about it. Like I kind of paid it, and like after the training, like all of the staff members went down to the Santa Cruz boardwalk. It's like a beach and like a boardwalk like full of like different activities and things. And at the bar, he offered to buy me a drink. And I was already drinking at that time, and I was already turned. So I said yes, of course. And so at the bar, he was just like asking me like all these different questions, and I was just so intrigued. And I was like, okay, this is cute. Like this is gonna be a really good summer. Like this is the first night, and somebody's already giving me my life. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, as the summer would develop, like it would turn into like this little like crush, and I want to call it a crush on my end because like he was just giving me so much attention, and I was just like, okay, what is this? Like, what is this? Like he never like said like anything to me like directly, but he would just always stare at me and like just like admire my shape from afar. That's what I'm calling it. So I'm trying to recollect. One of the nights there was like a gathering. So I was an RA, and this other person worked a different position than me. So their availability, it was very different from mine, and also the living situations were very different from mine. They stayed in apartments, and I stayed in dorms with the kids. So there was like a party at the apartments one night, and he would just come and like take my hat and like different articles of clothing like off of me and like try them on him and like see how they would look and stuff like
articles of clothing. Hold on now, what are you talking about?
Like a hat, girl.
Okay,
like a hat.
I was just making sure. I was like, wait a second now. You started off talking about sessions, and now we taking different articles of clothing. I don't know what's going on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So yeah, like he would take my hat and then like ask me to take a selfie with him in it or things like that. And he would just flirt with me like all night and just like say like different things. But then like he would flirt with me, and then I guess he would like prove his greatness to me by like going to go like flirt with a girl in my face and stuff like that. So it was a really interesting position to be in, like trying to negotiate like how I wanted to feel and like yeah, like how I wanted to like move forward, like if I was gonna talk to him the next day, or if I was just gonna pay him for the rest of the summer, but I couldn't because like he would still like do those little things that would make me smile, like come and sit at the lunch table with me and ask me how my night went, you know, how are the kids, how did I sleep, and stuff like that. All those little things that I thought were so cute. And yeah, so like this would go on for like the whole summer, like as he would have like different girlfriends as well, right? Like so he was not only was he flirting with me, he was like moving through the girls. So he talked to one girl one session, the next session he had a new boo, and come to find out he had another boo. So he was just a really flirtatious person. So I was having a hard time trying to like classify like what was happening and like what was going on with me. So I'm gonna fast forward to like I guess the end of the second session. And
second session anticipation.
So like at the end of the second session, it was our last night, and usually on the last night everybody get really sloshed, and like crazy things happen. So I was like, okay, yes, I'm gonna be getting drunk with him, and you know maybe he's gonna come to me and tell me that he's been into me the whole summer, things like that. So we ended up having a conversation about like anal sex. No. It was.
All right.
A lot.
Well, all right.
Let me backpedal. It was massages. Happy ending. So I guess like after a male would get a massage, and I guess they would get fingered. As a happy ending. I've never had that happen before, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
this was kind of being talked about amongst like I guess like several other straight people, and there were a few other like gay and queer people in the room, but none of us were talking about like the happy endings. We were talking about I guess the sexual experiences we've had in that area. So yeah, and he was just like asking me like how it feels and like have I heard anything about like people like having that done to them, like having a happy ending, and and so there was another straight identified person in the room who loved that, like he loved having the happy endings. So John Doe was asking him all these different questions, and he would always preface anything that he said with, I'm not gay or anything, but like, just in case I wanted to try this out, like, what does it feel like? Mm-hmm. So he just kept like, like doing those little things, and then he would come to me and ask me about like different experiences that I've had with men, and of course he would always prove his greatness. So he'll, have a girl next to him, and he'll like, play in her hair or little things like that. Just I guess like let me know that like he was straight, but all the while he's flirting with me, asking me all these different questions about like what I like and what I'm into and stuff like that. And it was just an interesting summer. Like it was really interesting. Like he and I hugged a few times.
Wait, did what a few times?
Hugged.
Oh, okay.
No, I heard hunch too. I was like, hunch. I was like, oh,
I was like, you buried the lead.
Okay, I was like,
hunching wasn't gonna happen, because if hunching happened, all of it would have happened.
Turned it out.
I wasn't gonna play it. If he was gonna hunch me, we were just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like elementary school hunting.
So you through that entire summer, you just pretty much went through that space with him, huh?
Yes, and it was just like so interesting. Just because like all of my friends around me like noticed it as well, so it wasn't just me going crazy. Like it wasn't just me like obsessing like over like a straight identified person. This person was like very much into me, but like I think he was having a hard time trying to deal with it himself and negotiate like what that meant for him. Because like it would even get like more active like if like sports were involved. Like I'm a big trash talker. And so, I would flirt back with him on the field, like playing frisbee, ultimate frisbee and things. And sometimes, if I was gonna hop in and play, football with the boys and things, he'll trash talk to me in those ways too. And some things that were said, they were just like really, really inappropriate. But I would pay in and keep it moving and smile, and it was just all tongue in cheek, I thought. But Yeah, like it was just really interesting. Like the whole summer, like this guy like flirting with me and me trying to figure out like what was going on, like what to make out of it. So yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. It makes me think about when you're sharing your story, like not only like men who are attracted to other men who are attracted to us, and like but at the same time in that attraction, they feel like they have to do something around us all the time to make sure they confirm that like I'm still straight, right? Like I'm gonna have this girl, like I said, about he had his hands in her hair. Like I can't tell you how many times I've had similar experiences with that with guys who definitely know that they have some pull and attraction to me, but feel like they need to do something like that to kind of confirm for themselves, really, because I think it's for me, but it's really for you, because you need that, right? Confirm for themselves that no, I'm still heterosexual in the way in which you understand heterosexual. But just like you said too, Jamal, I think an important piece too is that like that's very frustrating because you can feel their attraction towards you, and the inability for them to like acknowledge it and address it. It's just weird, right? It's gonna be odd.
Very weird.
Thank you, Jamal, for sharing that story. We're gonna come back around to all these different pieces. And I'm gonna ask Jamal, what do you have for breakfast or brunch this morning?
I'm real bangy, so I had some Burger King before I came on screen. But right now I'm having me a mimosa, and I have some mango over here on the side, which I'm probably gonna indulge in a little later.
Okay.
I love mango, by the way. Mango is just awesome.
I love it. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if I said this with everybody. Jamal is Team Libra, so he's awesome because I'm a Libra and Libras run shit. So I just want to let y'all know that real quickly. Team Libra, do it, boo, do it. So next, Eddie, did you want to share a piece for you?
For sure. So my boo-boo, who did homo things to me, was basically, he was a former personal attendant. So he worked for me. He, got me up in the morning, got me, dressed for school, all of that stuff. And he was really, really attractive, tall, dark, handsome. He was a basketball player, and he was working with me because he wanted experience, because he wanted to go into nursing.
Is that the kind of experience he wanted, Eddie? I don't know. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You sure that's the kind of experience he wanted?
Personal support work experience. Let me clarify. But yeah, so he was, very nice, very charming, very sporty guy. He took my breath away. He was really gorgeous. I acknowledge that. He, there are a couple of mornings when he, we'd have conversations sort of, in the shower. And he'd just ask me, tell me about yourself, tell me about, do you go out, all of these questions. And, we had a really good conversations, but then the conversations started getting, how should I put it, a little hot. He started asking me about, boys, and he prefaces by saying, he's like a guy's guy, several different girlfriends, all the bootings, all of them, he'd make that very known. And so I just, I took it as it was, I just like, okay, this boo-boo is, a guy's guy and he's making that known. But at the same time was super curious about like my own identity and so forth. And, and he said, he said, I learned so much from you. You're so smart. You're a really great guy. I think we're going to be friends like forever. I really like working with you. And I was like, okay, boo, that's fine. I like you too. But then I think the incident that stood out for me, which kind of made me call this into question, was when I was on the phone one morning and he walked in, ready to start the routine. And he asked me, so, it was a conversation and he was sort of eavesdropping. And then after he said, well, who are you on the phone with? I said, oh, just a friend. It's just like, oh, where's this friend? I'm like, You know, they're around, they're in the city, and he's just like,
Right.
oh, okay, cool, cool. Was it a boy?
Oh.
I was like, well, yes, but what's that to you? It's just like, nope, just curious, just curious. And for the rest of the day, he was very odd, very, didn't say anything. He was kind of upset. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm okay. You know, let's just do this, you know. And then, you know, by the end of it, he's just like, okay, I gotta go. So then that's when I knew, okay, something's up, something's up. And so, like, I mean, he worked with me for several months, and I'm not going to spill all the tea, but basically, yeah, this boo-boo kind of had a thing for me, but not really, never really said it. And, you know, he used to bring, you know, his girlfriends over, and, you know, yeah, it was a very interesting dynamic. So that's my little 1-2-1-2 thing.
Yes, one too.
Yes, wow, that's interesting. The phone call, honey. He's like, who you on the phone with? Wait a second, bro.
Right.
What you? Is it a boy? And then like even the question further, like, is it a boy? It's like, is that any of your business? It's really curious.
Wow.
Just a moment. Wow. Very intriguing. Very interesting.
Can I ask you a question, Eddie?
Yeah.
How did the girlfriend or girlfriends respond to you? Because I just to say I have a couple situations I did not talk about where you know, clear straight male friends of mine who were attracted to me and their girlfriends hated my guts for nothing ever happened between us. But it was always very clear. Every woman they dated, there was always an issue with me, right? So I'm just curious how that played out.
So it was really interesting. When he brought them over, he'd basically say, yo, this is my homeboy, he's really cool. And, you know, he sort of like, you know, hyped me up, basically. And so they would respond to me as, you know, and also because, like, I'm, you know, super femme and, like, super out there. And so, like, they'd like me. They'd be, you know, very cool, very chill. And so, but what was funny was that they would end up sort of befriending me and, you know, getting my number, calling me, and asking me about him, you know, and just say, so, you know, how's he treating you? Is he good? So it was very weird. I ended up being a kind of, I ended up taking on a kind of support system role where I was like kind of like a counselor, and I would kind of mediate this relationship, but I was like the third wheel. It was very, very strange. Like yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, hot mess.
That is interesting. Because, you know, it's also interesting to me, too, because I feel like, you know, their girlfriends know. They can feel that attraction. They know that pull is present somewhere. They won't let themselves be conscious of it in a certain kind of way, like to actually name it, but they can feel it, right? You know, I feel like I've been around straight women who, their boyfriend, like, you know, I don't know if you had experience where, like, you know, you're somewhere and a straight girlfriend sees you and feels their boyfriend kind of doing something, they clutch him. Like,
and they grab them close, yes.
And so they feel that. So it's very curious, Eddie. That's interesting. And also the interesting thing too, Eddie, like talking about like how you kind of ended up being kind of a counselor for them, like, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I've been in a similar situation like that too, where, like, you know, you end up kind of like helping them sort through their stuff, even as he likes you. And kind of like, what do you do with that? You know, very interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, heterosexual people, Lord, what are we going to do with them? So, and Eddie, what did you have for brunch or for breakfast today? What did you have for brunch today?
So I had a grilled cheese sandwich with bacon and tomato. It was awesome. And right now I'm drinking a large green tea with 2 sugars. So.
Nice.
That is black.
What did you say, Kenyan?
I said that when you said with 10 sugars, I said that is black. We gonna have the green tea, but it's gonna have some goddamn sugar in it. I love it.
Like our tea sweet.
And that's no shade because I'm the same way.
That's funny. That is funny. Well, so everyone else has shared. I have to share my stories, and Lord, let me tell you, honey, it's been some foolishness. Some of these stories that I'm going to tell you, I'm clearly going to change names, but people didn't believe me for some of these stories for years until I had my friend testimonies come up and tell them, back me up. So one of the stories, a lot of my stories come from my experiences at this very small college in southern Georgia, which I started at school at before I transferred to Georgia State, because I had to get the hell out because I was like, it's too much going on. People ain't free. It's too much. There's a lot going on. So the first story is, and every time I tell this story, I just kind of boggle my mind a little bit that this actually happened, but this did happen. There was a guy who was a member of a fraternity, and he was masculine enough where nobody believed me when I would tell these stories about these things that he was always doing to me that were a little bit like kind of flirtatious, sometimes aggressively flirtatious. And so one of the big things that happened. I'm gonna start small. So the first thing that happened was one time I ordered a pizza, and I went downstairs. And I was in the dorms, in the thin dorm for the summertime. I went downstairs to get my pizza, and this person, he has got my pizza and told him, oh, he gonna pay. And like found out that it was my pizza that I ordered for me, and my pizza. So I paid the person. I'm like, dude, give me my food. Like you can't do this. And we start wrestling in the middle of the the hall. And people are looking at it like, what's going on? This is kind of a little queer.
Because wrestling is very homoerotic.
Because this is me, and this is me like in 2002. So like I'm totally a princess, right? So like I'm like wrestling, and it's just like a lot going on. So that happened. I get my pizza from him, and I go back upstairs, and I'm just like weirded out by his just whole thing. Then the other thing happened. Nobody really believed me. Although a couple people saw it, but people kind of like read it differently. But no, and then this happened. And nobody believed me. Nobody believed that this happened. I lived on the first floor. I can't believe this to this day. I lived on the first floor, and I had my window open, and we didn't have screens in our windows. And so I woke up, and he climbed through my window and got on top of me. This is really kind of scary in some ways. It was a little scary, a little like, oh. But at the time, it was just so bizarre, and I was just like, what is happening? And so I wake up, and he's on top of me, like, holding me down. I'm saying, what you gonna do? You ain't gonna do shit. You gonna do shit. And I was like, I was saying a lot of things that I probably can't say right now because I cursed him out to the gods. Like, I was like, what are you doing? How did you get in my room, et cetera, et cetera? Because I didn't know at the point when I woke up, I was literally asleep. I woke up with him on top of me, and I deduced that he climbed through the window because the window was open. That was the only way he could have gotten into the place. And so I was like, dude, what is wrong with you? And so, I wrestle him and push him out. But I'm just so weird. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. What is happening? And so I told all my friends these stories, and most of my friends were straight women this time. I didn't have a lot of gay male friends at all, really. And they just thought I was totally making this up. They said, you're just being, there's no way. Because the guy was just so hyper-masculine in his presentation. Right. They just did not believe it. They thought that I was just kind of like trying to make everybody gay. Like, oh, you always trying to make everybody sound like they're gay and they're not gay. And they didn't believe me until one day we were actually all at a bar. And he came in with all his brothers. And we were at the table, me and my girlfriend at the table, and I had some chicken fingers. And he comes over to the bar, to my table, and he snatches up a chicken finger out of my plate. He said, you ain't gonna do shit. You ain't gonna do nothing. And when I tell you, the girls gagged. They gagged because it was just like, they were like, oh my God, there might be something truthful to what you were saying. I was like, I was so happy because I was like, see, I told y'all that dude, I told y'all what's happening. And so, thankfully, they started believing me. But I think they kind of believed me, but didn't believe me even still. They still thought I was taking it to another extreme. But that was one of the, really, it was prolonged. It was for a summer, which must be something about the summer, Jamal. Summer in Libras, honey. The girls just come. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
The girls just get a lot when it comes to us in the summertime, honey. But
for the Hello Kitty.
That was one of my weird experiences. Then the other one I have to say that was also kind of weird is my roommate. My roommate had a situation where, and this wasn't gay, but it was just kind of awkward and weird. My roommate had a situation that same summer. This summer had a lot of stuff happening. He had a girlfriend who I guess would stay the night with him when he was in high school. And so what happened is that his mother worked at night. So his mother would come home in the morning. He would wake his girlfriend up in the morning to leave before his mother came home. And so when I first became roommates with him, I would be like, I'm on the other side of the room in my bed, and he would come in the middle of the night and grab my thigh, like really high in my thigh, like grab me and be like, hey, wake up, babe, wake up, babe, wake up. And I was like, and the first time it happened, I was like, did that just happen? He was sleepwalking. He was completely, well, that's what I assumed he was sleepwalking. I don't know how true that was, but he was sleepwalking. But he would do that. He did that for like maybe 2 times, which I thought was just me, and because it was so jarring, because it would literally just knock me out of my sleep, and I'd be like, what's happening? And then like it got to the point one time he literally came up, he grabbed me, he like just touched me and like trying to get me up, and I was like, and I woke up and said, dude, wake up. He's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I thought you were my girlfriend. I was like, oh. Okay. Right. I don't know how I feel about this.
Wow.
But yeah, that was just a really interesting summer with these men. And it's always interesting for me because a lot of those experiences, a lot of my experiences with men used to be, they would be men that people wouldn't always assume were queer because of their presentation externally or whatever. And so like people always discredit me, like, oh, you're just making that up, you're just not, that's not real, etc. And so it's always awkward and very weird. And also just being in space with them. Sometimes I would see them and they would speak, and then sometimes they wouldn't speak, right? Because even you never knew that moment when they want to be homophobic and masculine, or versus that moment when they actually want to be authentic and like talk to you and engage you. You know what I mean? And how to figure that out when I was on campus was really kind of difficult. It was hard. It was also weird sometimes.
Speaking about on campus,
what'd you say, Jamal?
I said speaking about on campus, it's that type of, I guess, like engagement is very, I guess, like similar to some of my experiences here at Morehouse. I think people have this like really big assumption that we fuck each other already anyway, because we're just our school is, I guess, is just dubbed as this big gay school or big homophobic school.
What? What? Go ahead,
You tried it.
I've never heard these things. Good gosh, never. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I feel like, well, because I think it's different from, I guess, like some of the girls think all we do is fuck each other, and some of the other girls are just like, girl, are you okay there? Like, oh my God, I heard about this. Like, are you okay? Like, are they like killing you over there? Like, are you living? Like, I just need to check on you. I was like, I'm fine, child. I'm living. I'm something every day. But some of my experiences here on campus is just really different. They're really awkward sometimes. Like, some people feel comfortable enough to, I guess, like, engage with me and kiki, and, they love the terms like sickening, beat, and shade. So, they just love to come up and just converse with me in those kinds of ways. And then also, they like to flirt.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
Yeah. It's so
interesting. But, like not acknowledge those feelings. But, yeah, I just wanted to draw that connection.
No, I think you're right. I think campus and college life is a time where people are discovering themselves among many times, like many periods of time. But it is something to be said, because I think that, like, and this is completely just YOLO philosophy, but I do believe that, like, as human beings, our attractions vary and are very complex, and they're not always, like, as simple as we would like to put them in. Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes people don't always understand how to connect with those attractions when they are in opposition to what they kind of believe or have understood their sexuality to be. So if I'm a straight identified man and I find Jamal attractive, but I might not necessarily want to have sex with Jamal. Maybe I do want to have sex with Jamal. But even if I have an attraction, I might not necessarily know what to do with that, because like it's an opposition to my understanding of my identity. Because sometimes people don't understand that, like, you could be straight identified and still be attracted. Like, a lot of straight men I know who I work with in the community and in work, who are straight identified men, but can acknowledge that, like, yeah, I think he's hot. Like, I think he's attractive. Do I want to have sex with him? Not necessarily, right? You know what I mean? Right. Do I like flirting with them? Yes, I do. Like, you know what I mean? I do like connecting with them. So, like, there's all these complicated ways that people kind of relate to their sexuality, their gender, their attraction. But I think that a lot of times people don't know how to do them, how to like express them or talk about them. And then sometimes for us, I think sometimes as queer people, or queer men, I think we always sometimes make the erroneous mistake that just because somebody is flirtatious with us or likes attention from gay men doesn't mean they want to, like, be with us or be gay, quote unquote, be queer. Just because they're just like they enjoy flirting. Kenya's giving the side eye. He's like, no, girl, I don't use it. They
no, It wasn't that at all. I was actually having another, like remembering when something happened to me once, because I hear what you're saying is absolutely right. And my problem is that I think everybody's always trying to talk to me, right? So like,
Scorpio, y'all. Scorpio in the house. Scorpio in the house, honey. Scorpio.
right. So one time I was walking down the street, and I saw this guy came out of a store, like on the street I was walking down, and he starts walking towards me, and and so I saw him and I was like, oh, he's really hot, and I saw him like kind of catch my eyes, and I thought, and as I passed him, I was like, I'm gonna turn around and see if he's still looking, right? So I turned around, and he was turned around, and I was like, oh, see, and then I was like, I started to pivot to like go and like I was gonna like go and introduce myself or whatever, and then he called out like some name of some person, and then this kid came running out the same store behind him, so he was like looking for his son. I was like, this would be really awkward, like. So, you know, I have a bunch of stories like that where like, you know, I swore somebody was like trying to holler and they was like reaching for eggs at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Embarrassing, but anyway.
That's silly, yeah. It's really interesting navigating, you know, attraction, pull, and all that good stuff. So, did anybody have any closing thoughts before we wrap up our conversation? Any closing thoughts? How to navigate your trade? No, I'm just kidding. That's not what this is about.
I know how to navigate your trade.
Managing your trade 101, which will be our next video at Brunch with the Boys. No, it's not. I'm just kidding.
Just let your trade be let your trade be the trade.
You know. But no. I want to thank all the gentlemen here for being a part of this conversation. I think it is an interesting dialogue, and I'm sure we all, as queer men, same-gender-loving gay men, have lots of stories like these. It's always difficult to kind of figure out how to navigate those kind of spaces and to like honor and respect people's various attractions that don't necessarily reflect their sexual orientation. And how do we hold that and figure that out? So as you've been watching, of course, I want to make sure we keep the conversation going. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at BrunchWTheBoys and use the hashtag BWTB if you want to tweet about this video and maybe share your experience and your stories, because we want to hear too. You know, don't spill too much tea on Twitter, now. You know, it's public knowledge. But you know, share with us, tweet at us. You have all our Twitter handles. Tweet us and continue the conversation. Because once again, it is a very interesting experience, a little fun, but it's also a lot to be learned, I think, from those kind of experiences. A lot of things that we can learn about sexuality and gender and human sexuality in general, if we just kind of have those conversations, you know? So I want to thank all the brilliant and beautiful men for being on with me today. Thank you, Eddie, for being here. Thank you, Jamal. Thank you, Kenyan. It has been a really interesting conversation, and there is more to come. We'll continue it next time on Brunch with the Boys. See you all later. Bye.
Beautiful people. Beautiful creature.